Welcome, everyone, to the Culinary Now podcast. I'm Matt Britt.
And I'm Jamie Schick.
And today on the pod, we are joined by Chef Chris Viaud, a James Beard-nominated chef, most recently known for competing on season 18 of Top Chef. He's also the chef and owner of Greenleaf and Ansom, located in Milford, New Hampshire, Jamie and I's home state as well. So we're all 603ers here. Chris, chef, welcome to the pod.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here.
We are so excited to have you that this finally worked out. I know we tried to connect a few years ago and things just didn't happen. So I'm so happy that we get to chat today. And you and I used to work together in Boston. And I'm curious how you ended up in New Hampshire, because Matt and I were chatting before this, and both of us were saying, we don't think of New Hampshire as like a food destination place. So we're curious how you ended up where you are.
Yes, so originally I'm from Massachusetts, so that's where my roots will always be. And when my family moved to New Hampshire when I was about 15. So from there, I never really felt like I was in place here. My roots, again, were always in Mass, and I felt just like out of place, especially being like one of few Black kids in New Hampshire. So then after finishing high school, I attended Johnson & Wales for the 4-year program. And from there, I knew that if I was attending culinary school, I wanted to put my degree to work. And I really loved everything that I've learned, and I wanted to apply all of that knowledge. I knew New Hampshire wasn't going to be the place to go back to. So I figured if I wanted to kind of continue to grow, it would be looking into the bigger cities that would be a little bit closer near home. So there was talk of staying in Rhode Island or going out to Boston or New York City. And it was really one of my chef instructors, Chef Joe Melanson, who pushed me really to kind of go test out the Boston food scene, which I did. So I applied to a couple of different restaurants. I had some stages, and I landed at Duave in Boston's Back Bay, which I spent 3 of my most formative years there, learning and honing my skills, working alongside some amazing chefs like Chef Jamie herself. And it was just incredible to see the diversity in culture and cuisine throughout the city. And I knew that through my time in the city, it was going to be very limited. I wanted to start a family, and sometimes that city kind of aspect isn't conducive to it. So I knew my parents were still back in New Hampshire, and that's what pretty much brought me back there. Emily's family is from New Hampshire as well, my wife. So we both knew that that's where we wanted to kind of develop our family's roots. So we packed everything up from Boston. We still commuted from New Hampshire while working in Boston for a little bit until we could find some place that was suitable for us over here. Throughout the course of my years working in the outskirts of Boston, which was closer to New Hampshire, I landed myself an opportunity to open my first restaurant adventure under the leadership of an ownership team who didn't really know much about operating restaurants. So to say, my time with them was very short. And from that point on, I just had the realization that I needed to figure out what did I want to do with myself. And I took some time to travel, work for just some catering companies so I can experience different kitchens, different cooking applications, cooking outside in different environments until the opportunity came where I could open up my first restaurant in Milford.
So I want to go back a little bit because you talked about how, well, Jamie introed this about how New Hampshire maybe isn't at the very top of food destinations. And I don't want to undervalue the food that is there because, I mean, I grew up working in New Hampshire. I think it's very one-dimensional, or at least it was. And your philosophy, and I want to talk about the need for a chef to have sort of a food philosophy, but your philosophy talks a lot about seasonality and about, cooking fresh and sourcing locally. And these are all things that ideally New Hampshire is perfect for, because if you think about like it's peak New England seasonality, it's more rural, so you have more access to maybe farms. Did that benefit you in some way when you were kind of finding your identity opening the first restaurant?
Absolutely. It helps open up my realization of food as a whole, and kind of brought everything full circle, where in the city, I mean, we have access to local restaurants or local farms, but it is very limited. Here in Milford and in the surrounding towns, there's so many different farms that offer a variety of produce, and it helps kind of inspire your menus. You're never short on what you can grab from local farm available products. So it's just inspiring to see the food that you can pretty much grab with your own hands and pull from the soil, and you can work with the farmers and help tell their story. I mean, all these farmers came from somewhere. They got interested in food and farming somehow. And to be able to connect with them, it helps you build the story on the plate.
Yes, I would definitely agree. I think New Hampshire is great for seasonality. And I was just looking. I know that you have a lot of restaurants now and you've started a restaurant group. And I was curious about how you've gone about building that and any challenges that you might have faced becoming an entrepreneur and kind of growing this restaurant group that you've built. And it's all New Hampshire based. So again, I suppose that probably comes with additional challenges.
Yes, very much so. So when we were starting, Greenleaf itself opened in 2019. So we began construction in 2018. And throughout that whole process, I mean, it was very quick. We worked with experienced builders, so they knew exactly what they were doing to stay on track. So it was probably October of 2018 until May of 2019 when Greenleaf opened. That was the first big hump. And I didn't face too many challenges with construction wise or opening. It was just more so, this is my first restaurant opening experience under my own umbrella. And at the age of 28, of course, you don't have that much knowledge going into it. So it was kind of just learning along the way. And we had a great spring, great summer. Fall was tricky as people started going back to school. And then, of course, the holiday season was a big boom. Then we step into 2020. Of course, we all knew what happened then. COVID hit. So that was probably definitely the biggest hurdle that I've had to kind of face throughout my career thus far, is finding ways to kind of maneuver through COVID and how
Right.
Greenleaf as a upper scale fine dining establishment can adhere to the new guidelines and what we can do to kind of keep afloat. So I pretty much just took 2 days to shut the restaurant down and just reconform the whole menu to be something suitable for families, and doing like take and bake pasta dishes and doing pizzas and sandwiches out of Greenleaf, which of course that's something that we never even imagined or planned for. So it's just that one little hurdle that helped get us through, and the families, communities were very appreciative and supportive, which of course led us through the past few years. Through the midst of that, I opened up a bakery in August of 2020, which was very much suitable for the climate that we were in. It was all focused on just takeout, quick grab and go, online ordering. So that was incredible. But during that whole time frame, that's when Top Chef reached back out and said, "Oh, we'd love to have you on the show." So the minute that I signed the papers that I wanted to sign the bakery, I was all gung ho. I knew I was applying, but I haven't heard back from Top Chef. And then all of a sudden, it was probably 5 weeks before opening the bakery. That's when they said, "Okay, we're ready for you. We're leaving in 2 weeks." So from that point on, the bakery itself was 3 weeks old by the time I'd left. I was gone for 2 months with very minimal communication with Greenleaf or the bakery culture. And I was just hoping that things would stay afloat during those 2 months that I was gone. So it was definitely stressful thinking about all of that while trying to keep your head in the competition, and in the midst of COVID. So there was so much going on during that time frame, but I think that helped make me as an entrepreneur a stronger chef, a stronger person, and provided me the focus and determination to continue to just move on. And through all those obstacles I faced, I found failures, I found triumphs, and that's all growth for me. And I love to see kind of where the business has grown and developed. And for me now, it's just providing opportunities for younger chefs or cooks in New Hampshire to see that there is greater dining than just steak and potato places, you know? So it's inspiring for me to see like there are cooks who are willing to stay in New Hampshire, provided that there are opportunities for them.
So I think you're undervaluing how hard it was and how much you did, because we've talked, a lot of people that have come on this podcast that have restaurants that have talked about the difficulty and how they spent basically a couple years just trying to keep one restaurant afloat. I mean, you pivoted really fast. You opened another restaurant. You went on a national TV cooking show, all in the middle of a pandemic. Like that's, I mean, I don't want people to. It's really impressive, and is what I'm trying to say. How did, all while, like, anyone you talk to that lives in sort of that southern New Hampshire area sings praises about your restaurant. So I feel like, how did you maintain consistency and quality while you were doing all these other things?
It all boils down to the staff that I have on hand. I could not do anything possible without them. And even opening my next restaurant, Pavilion, which I just took over a few months ago, I would not have that opportunity if it wasn't for the people that I have in place and the trust that I've built with them over the years in teaching them, showing them my ways of operation and allowing them the freedom, flexibility to kind of become one with the restaurant itself and understand that these are the standards that I have set over the past 2-3 years. These are the guidelines that I want you to follow. And I trust your judgment in making some harder calls when I'm not there. But the expectation is that this is the brand that you're working within. How can we kind of learn and grow together and kind of incorporate your cooking style or your ingredient preferences while still working within the realm of staying within farm to table and sourcing local?
I know that any cook, anybody who comes to work for you is going to learn so much because I've worked with you and I know how passionate you are. But talking about the people that you're working with, I know you've brought your family in and your wife in. How has that been getting to work with them on all of these endeavors? Because I love working with my husband when we get to do stuff together. So I don't know if you enjoy the working with your family or not.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Emily and I always have a great working relationship, but we do say that sometimes it's best to take that break away. So it's great that she had her own business going during some time where we know come holiday season, she has her own flexible schedule where she's doing her own thing and I can go back to working in the restaurants. But there were times when we opened up the bakery where it was very challenging because it was small. We were there together every day, all day. So to be working and trying to find that work and home balance, it was almost non-existent. It was constantly at work talking about work, at home talking about work, at work talking about home, and it was just a mess. So, but through all of it, I mean, we find joy and having the ability to work so closely with my family. Once we started the pop-up brand Ensemble, which is a nod to, of course, our heritage. Ensemble is the Haitian Creole word for together. So it was always the premise of bringing the family together and learning about the food that we grew up eating and how we can apply that to teaching and educating the community about a cuisine that is so unfamiliar. So we've had many challenges along the way. When we first started the pop-ups, we started just it was during COVID again. So we started with just online ordering. And the first month that we did it, we had over 100 orders and we had to just cut it off. We had no idea that the support was going to be that immense. And it just took us by shock. So the next month that we opened it up again, over 100 orders where we were so surprised that there's people that are willing, especially in New Hampshire, who are very uncultured, that were ready to kind of experience this Haitian cuisine where you can't really grab anywhere in the state. So after about the third or fourth dinner, that's where we had that realization, like, okay, we have something very special going. I consulted with the whole family over Zoom saying, I know we're doing these once a month dinners. Do we want to continue this? And how do we morph this into something that's a little bit more unique and special? So from there, that's where the name awareness and the brand came to be of Ensemble. Before that, it was just we're doing Haitian dinners together. Then it was a year later where a restaurant space became available. And again, knowing that it's a whole family operation, I called a Zoom together because some of our families in Massachusetts, my parents are in New Hampshire with me. So I called everybody together and said, okay, we have this opportunity to open a brick and mortar. Is this something that you guys are interested in? Knowing that some of my siblings have their own full-time responsibilities, it was just a matter of, is this something that we want to dive into and what does that all look like? So that was a whole different side of the pop-up things because now my family and I are literally in the same space working together day in and day out to get this business up and running, trying to make sure that a Haitian restaurant in New Hampshire is going to succeed, you know? So that had some challenges on its own. And the fact that my family really never worked in the restaurant industry, there's a communication barrier of those who work in the industry understand the lingo and those who don't. So while we were trying to educate the community on food, I was educating my family on working in the restaurant industry, what that all means. And they were educating me on Haitian food and cuisine. So it was like this never ending circle, which is still ongoing, where we strive to just always have an open line of communication. We do stress each other out, as most families do, but it's a loving, working, healthy relationship.
Chef,
That's awesome.
How important is it to you, I guess personally, to be cooking Haitian food today? Knowing that, like, probably, I mean, Greenleaf for what it was very experimental for New Hampshire. And again, I don't want to, New Hampshire's awesome, but I think it was new for New Hampshire.
Correct.
Now that you're doing Haitian cuisine, is that even more special than succeeding initially with Greenleaf?
Yes, absolutely. I think Top Chef brought that side out of me. Like I knew I always wanted to learn more about my roots and how I can apply that kind of cooking to the everyday cooking that I do at the restaurants, but I never had that real push or motivation to get me to that next level. And being surrounded by some of those chefs that were on my season who were very much so in the chair of promoting uh, their culture through food, that opened my eyes to say, okay, let me start talking to them more about how they're able to do it in Las Vegas and California, which definitely have more open mind communities. But I specifically remember speaking to one and just saying, like, if you want to do something, go for it. Like, you're never going to know if it's going to work if you don't try. So that's how the concept of Ensemble came to be, is just the willingness to try something new and seeing if the community will pick up on it. So taking that step back and learning and growing from not not shying away from who I am and the food that I grew up eating, but more so using that as an opportunity to educate and inspire younger cooks who might not have that had that opportunity looking back, where you're coming up in the industry and you have the choice to work in a French restaurant, an Italian restaurant, or things like that. Now you're starting to see a lot more cultural diverse opportunities in restaurants where people are focusing more on their heritage, and it allows opportunities for different cuisines to be exposed. So for me personally, it's just gratifying to be able to have something so close to myself, to my family, and be grounded in the approach to kind of taking that step back, saying, okay, I know the kind of food that I do. It's really technical. It's beautifully presented, and kind of just going back to the roots of food itself and saying, okay, these are the ingredients that Haitians work with. This is the grassroots of it. This is how they cook it. Strip and remove all you know about your classically French trained cooking, and this is how we do it. And to be able to take that step back and learn from my mom and watch her cook, it just opened my eyes to a whole different way of how you can layer and develop flavors as opposed to what we're classically taught.
It's so important you said that, because and it's so important that now it's not just go to work at a French restaurant, go to work in an Italian restaurant or an American restaurant. It's no, like, I'm going to go to work at a Haitian restaurant, because I think personally for myself, like, I worked at a contemporary Latin American restaurant and I knew nothing about Latin American food. And it made me so much better at cooking to understand that you don't have to monte every sauce with butter. Like,
Exactly.
it's something that I think all emerging culinarians should keep as an option. Is like, I know that we're still in a world where, you know, the very French are deemed potentially the best, but there's other best in the world. And I feel like we need to celebrate those as much. So I think that that's amazing. You also talked a little bit about sort of taking chances, whether it be on Top Chef or opening, you know, a Haitian restaurant in New Hampshire. What would you say to a student that's like on the verge, and they have this opportunity and they're just really really nervous about failing? Like, what advice would you give to them?
It's tough to kind of say, but I mean, failure is your key to success, right? I mean, you're never going to know how far you're willing to take yourself until you kind of go through those trials and tribulations. Make that first step and kind of gear yourself for the worst and prepare for the best to come. There's definitely going to be hurdles along the way, and I faced many myself. But through each of those failures comes growth. And you have the opportunity to learn more about yourself, learn more about time and a place where you are, and kind of continue to just learn and develop where you want to be.
I just wanted to touch on something real quick when you and Matt were chatting there. But I do think that your heritage does seep into everything you do, like whether it's through flavor combinations, even if it's not that specific style of food. I think there's always threads of it. Even I see it in my students too. Whenever they're coming up with the new dishes, they might have a really interesting flavor combination, but it's something they grew up eating together, and it kind of seeps in. Even if we're making a classically French dish like a creme brulee, the flavors can always come through. And I think that's how we learn and grow and evolve as chefs. So I just wanted to touch on that quickly. And I know a lot of our students listen and they all want to be entrepreneurs. And I think looking at what you've done and how much success you have had in, again, being in a state like New Hampshire, I think is really, really inspiring. So if we have a student who's wanting to take the first step, what advice would you give them for that, for starting to have their own restaurant or even their own brand?
The very best thing is just start with your research. Know where you want to be located and what steps you need to follow from there. Each state has their own different guidelines of particular establishments that you want to open or how small or big you want eventually to get. So definitely start with research and use available resources around you. If you know an entrepreneur or business owners that are willing to talk to yourself as a student, of course use that resource. There's no reason to be shy about it because all business owners started somewhere. And me thinking back 4 or 5 years, I wish that I had a heavier hand with somebody who was going to kind of guide me through that beginning process of saying, these are some things that you can do to help maintain yourself as you're going through this process. These are some things that you can do to stay ahead of the game. And these are some things that you want to stay away from. And having key people in different aspects of business will help move you along in the way, like having a very knowledgeable accountant or lawyer or business advisor. Those are all key people that you want to keep in your pocket to help you get to where you want to be.
That's all the un-Instagram worthy stuff.
It's so true. People think you just kind of get into it and you know all there is to know about business, but those are the people really who help kind of guide you through the process. And use, of course, your town's resources too. Like if there's a small business organization resource center around you, utilize that in every way that you can.
Yeah. And speaking of, small town, small businesses, Pavilion in Wolfboro, I'm super excited to go to because I grew up having summers there. My parents live in that area, and my husband has worked up there with another chef. So I'm so excited to go. So I know that that's new. This is the first season that you're going to be up at Pavilion. And I know you're working on a cookbook. So what else do you have coming down the pipe? Or when can we expect your cookbook? Because I know I've been seeing your sneak peeks and I'm pretty excited about it.
Yes, absolutely. Now, that cookbook is really a project that I'm excited for, as my brother has done all the photography for it. And it's just incredible to see like his journey through photos as well. So to be able to have a project that's really our legacy with my food, his photos, it kind of just works hand in hand. So we started that process last year and we just submitted the beginning of May. So the book should be coming out by midsummer, end of summer. So we're excited for that for sure. And Pavilion, I'm definitely excited for. I love the Lakes region, and to be able to have kind of like a steady flow of being up there while operating and providing some cuisine, again, that is not really familiar with that area because
No, they need it. They need it.
For sure. Up there, it's very much so. You just churn and burn because the high volume that comes through for the vacation area, So to be able to say, okay, I know my kind of cuisine, there's a need for it, there's a want for it, especially with people being so well-traveled and having financial resources living up in that area. They want to be able to have that same kind of dining experience that they've had in Europe or in major cities. So to be able to offer that, that's really unique and special for us.
Well, I'll be coming in for sure.
Oh my God. I can't wait. Yeah.
My parents live 10 minutes from there, so I'm going to drag them.
Wow,
I'm going to drag them in.
I always want a reason to go visit my family. And now that there's good food, it's like, it's even more of a reason. No, you talked a little bit about the cookbook and I want to go back there a little bit. Can you talk about that process in writing a cookbook? Because I know, and I haven't seen your book yet, but I know cookbooks now are more sort of stories. And you mentioned the photos and how that sort of paints a picture. How is the process of writing a cookbook? Because I know part of my class is for students to kind of take their recipes and turn it into a pseudo cookbook. Can you go through your process?
Yes, absolutely. So the first cookbook I did was I was co-author in, that was 2018, called The Farmer's Dinner Cookbook. And that was a celebration of foods through the season. So the book is broken up spring, summer, fall, winter. And we were pretty much inspired by going to the local farms and grabbing what we could through each season and building the recipes off of what we found. So that helped kind of guide the process of writing the book. This new cookbook that's coming out is more focused on bringing families together. So it's a shared experience where it's more like platter style, family style recipes. And with this one, I definitely paid homage to a lot of Haitian dishes that are well throughout that book. in addition to more contemporary American dishes where you can find a lot of the local ingredients at your supermarket or farms. So I always try to keep the cookbook as simple as possible in terms of recipe building and developing to make sure that it's not overwhelming when you flip the page and you see a whole list of ingredients that you need to gather or this 3-page recipe for steps that you need to follow. So it's keeping in mind your audience, of course, and who you're really trying to capture. So when developing this book, I had a list of hundreds of recipes that I was hoping that I wanted to get to, and then shrunk that down to the list of recipes that I knew that I could get to, and what I thought would present the best in here. So it's about really just honing in on kind of your time and place where you feel the best that you're representing yourself through that time frame that you have for the book, whether it's 6 months, 3 months, or a year, and how you can use the best of your time to really help tell your story through these recipes.
It's so funny you say that because the episode that this podcast released right before yours was titled Time and Place because we interviewed one of the chefs at Noma. And it's so funny that, and I hope, I'm flattering, like the best chefs all have that. They all understand that good cooking is about time and place. Absolutely. And for you, that time is with your family in New Hampshire right now. And the place is New Hampshire. So whether you're in Milford or up in the Lakes region, I think you're doing great things up there, Chef. So I'm happy to have you changing the food scene in the Granite State.
I appreciate that. And I'm just glad to be a part of the group of chefs that are willing to kind of put their better foot forward and say, you know what, I'm in New Hampshire and we're not going to be Boston. We're going to be New Hampshire, but we are going to compete with some of the best,
Absolutely.
So when do you sleep? You have so many roles. Like what? How do you do it all?
I can't say that I sleep often, but it's just a balancing game and fitting in pockets of my schedule where I know, okay, I have to do some housework. I know I have to spend time with family. I know I have to spend office work, but it's an ongoing struggle with myself, trying to take time away from work and trying to shut down a little bit. But that's part of the growing pains of wanting to be successful and operating your own business is you have to make some of those sacrifices. And one day, it's all going to pay off.
Exactly. Chef, where can those listening find you on social media or how do they learn more about Chris Viaud?
You can find me at Chef Chris Viaud. So that's ChrisViaud.
Beautiful. And check him out at Greenleaf in Milford and Pavilion, when does that open again?
So we are currently open and we're going to be open for, full-time 5 days a week come next week.
Awesome. Go check them out. All right.